So you've reached your 5-year MOP and you're thinking to yourself, should I upgrade to an EC? But wait, maybe someone told you that it's risky or that you're not eligible. In fact, a lot of families hold back all because of the wrong assumptions. So in this video, I'll be breaking down 4 very common EC myths that I hear all the time. Hi bros and sis, this is Gerald. Welcome back to another video. So I'm an ex-sessional badminton player turned real estate agent helping Singaporeans upgrade with confidence. So let's get started with myth number 1. I need to pay everything in cash. So a lot of people have this misunderstanding that they need to pay the EC down payment, most of it in cash, or if not, the huge or the shortage in cash, because a lot of people cannot get the full loan quantum required. So there's like maybe a couple of $100,000 in shortage. They have this perception, oh, I need to pay that really soon in cash, but that is not true. So let's take an example to bring this story to life. So if a couple has a combined income of say $14,000 a month, they can take a maximum loan of around 1 million to maybe 1 million and 10k kind of figure. But the cheapest EC that you can buy will probably go for around $1.5 million today, which means they have a shortage of around $500,000, which is a lot of money. So a lot of people think that they need to pay this $500,000 shortage in like cash or CPF really quickly, when in actuality it's a lot longer than they think. So it's actually 5% cash only. This one is non-negotiable. It must be cash, $7,250. Afterwards, there is the next 15%, which happens around 3 weeks time. So in this case, $1.5 million property, it will be around $231,000 plus around $50,000 in legal and stamp duty fees. All this can be paid with CPF. Yes, you heard me right. Even legal fees and stamp duty can be paid with CPF. But you need to check carefully because not every legal firm allows that. Wait a minute, then what about the balance there? It's still short of around $230-something thousand there. Right, so all these balances are only paid when your property hits TOP. So let's take the current EC as an example. Right now, the upcoming new EC is called Otto Place. It is launching next month in July. The place only TOPs approximately first quarter in 2028. So this means effectively you have a minimum of 29 months to save up for this balance $231,000. So that breaks down to around $7,700 a month in saving, assuming you got no cash balance. You need to start everything from scratch. Of course, you need to bear in mind the property could be completed earlier, or it also could be delayed, so that gives plus minus, right? So you need to have some buffer there. And additionally, because it's 3 years later, you have the option of revisiting your loans. This means that maybe, let's say for example, 3 years later your income rise, right? You could be eligible for even more loans. So at that point of time, you may even fork out even less cash compared to what you originally anticipated. And the second factor is that if you're an existing homeowner, you can actually sell your place and you will have even more cash and more CPF to use for the down payment of your EC. Most of the time, of course, there are exceptions that apply, but we're not talking about those situations right now. So while this gives you an idea on how you can potentially maximize your loan quantum and afford an EC, I need to caveat that if you need to really stretch yourself like super thin, right, it might be more prudent to withhold upgrading to an EC until you at least have set aside funds for contingencies such as, a loss of income or, for example, a surprise baby, right? And as always, calculations is very sensitive, so you do need to speak to a banker as well as experienced agent to help you really sort out your calculations before you commit to the purchase of an EC. So on to myth number 2 is that ECs are just overpriced condos at very ulu places. So ECs are really bad because they are, ulu, they don't have a lot of perks like regular condos, and that is a huge misunderstanding. Yes, when EC first started, a lot of them were developed on cheaper lands, which of course happen to be a lot further from your developed cities because they're subsidized, they are cheaper. But recently, after the new classification, right, there have been new upcoming ECs that are near MRT. Not only that, actually ECs have full condo facilities. However, they have HDB restrictions for the first 10 years. So after 10 years, they become fully privatized, essentially the same as your regular condo. So if you look at the price trend of ECs, right, ECs have been appreciating to the same level as regular condo prices as the HDB restrictions are lifted after the 10-year mark. In fact, most of them after the 5-year MOP, they're pretty much almost the same price as your regular condos already. So if you're looking to get a condo for the long term, ECs provide great value, and I'll tell you in more detail at myth number 4. So let's go to myth number 3 first, which is you must sell your HDB before you can apply for your EC. And this is a myth that holds a lot of people back because you need to move twice, right? Sell HDB, move to somewhere else, then wait another 3 years, and then you can move into your EC. But that is not really the case. In fact, most of the time why people sell the HDB before they commit to an EC is because of the cash outlay when making the down payment. It isn't because you need to sell your HDB. In fact, you can apply for the EC first, pay the 20% down payment if you have enough balance, and only upon collecting your keys to your EC, then you sell your HDB flat. This works because EC takes 3 to 4 years to complete, and therefore you have plenty of time to plan to sell your flat. But again, I must caveat that timeline is key because in my personal experience, right, ECs can complete early and they can also be delayed. So if you don't plan your timeline right, you will face number 1, penalties because you have, cannot make payment for the balance, or may flout HDB's regulation, end up owning 2 properties at the same time. Again, penalties. So therefore, really be very, very careful. If you want to be conservative, just sell your HDB a little bit earlier and move in with your parents, or rent a temporary stay for, let's say, 3 to 6 months until your place is complete. Then therefore, you have a stress-free moving experience. Of course, it's troublesome, but you rather have that inconvenience rather than stress, right? And last but not least, there's no grant for EC, only BTO. That is again not true. Or if not, some people have this idea that, oh, the grants for EC so little, only 30,000 when the property is like 1.5 million and the income cap so low. How to even get that subsidy? So if we look at the CPF housing grants for EC, yes, you can get up to $30,000 if your income is less than $10,000 combined. But then just imagine how much cash you need to outlay. Wow, very tall, I tell you. I also feel stress for you. But there is a second kind of discount that a lot of people do not understand or miss out on when it comes to EC. You see, right? The thing is that ECs are discounted to begin with. And how is this discount passed on to you? Right? Is that the land that is meant for ECs that the government sell to the developer is actually cheaper. It's almost like 15 to 20% cheaper, like $100 to $200 per square foot cheaper compared to land plots for, let's say, regular condo development. And because the land is cheaper to the developer, right? So the developer would then sell to consumers hopefully cheaper. So therefore, you're actually getting 2 discounts. First is the land plot or developer already priced in the property is a little bit cheaper. Number 2, you get potentially up to $13,000 in grants. And therefore, ECs actually offer amazing value, and that is why Singaporeans always chiong for EC, leaving only the really big units, because big units usually have very high down payment quantums because of the loan restrictions, and therefore it is really hard to fork out like $1 million cash just to buy an EC. So let's quickly recap. For the 20% down payment, 5% mandatory cash, 15% cash or CPF, you can defer a lot of the balances up to TOP using the deferred payment scheme. ECs are not overpriced and ulu unlike in the past. In fact, there are entry price condo or subsidized condo that often grow in value to match surrounding condo prices. You don't need to sell your HDB before applying for ECs. You can actually stay in your HDB until key collection. And number 4, grants to apply for ECs. You get up to $30,000 for first timer, as well as cheaper land cost, which is basically cheaper home prices for you. And if you're seriously considering to upgrade to an EC, especially for the upcoming launches like Otto Place in Tengah, which is like the last EC in the West for probably 1 or 2 years. The preview starts on the 4th of July. So currently I've helped a lot of families prepare in terms of affordability, linking up with bankers, as well as the whole balloting process, especially if it's your first time balloting for a new launch. So you can click the link in the description or DM me on Instagram with the Otto Place to find out more. So in the upcoming video, I'm going to talk more about Otto Place. I'm going to review the different layouts as well as EC affordability breakdown. Do check out what YouTube recommends you over here, or subscribe if you want to find out more about property tips, CPF strategies, and smart ways to upgrade your property in Singapore. I'm Gerald, and see you in the next one. Take care.